So, back in the old days, what did parents used to moan about? You read that comic book, you're never going to learn anything reading a comic book. What's it today? You'll rot your mind playing on those computer games. You want to get out? Come on, get some sunshine. It's really bad for you. Well, here's a business that this one I'm very passionate about, to be fair. So, if I could, I would. But it don't generate no money. But what it does do is it later on would generate a lot of money. Actually, it probably wouldn't generate money. It would generate life. A lot of things, actually. So let's crack in on it. I'm probably going to keep this with one type of process, and then I can go on to another one and another at a later date. Or I could probably put it all in one video, but it might get a little bit extreme. So let's look about bots. Different types of bots that you can... Could you imagine kids today, right? What are they very much into? Playing games. They love it. And everyone is whinging at them that they shouldn't be playing games. And let's say most of the establishments that are around are like, oh god, we got such a problem, it's become the new epidemic, everyone's playing on games. Like, stop resisting it. Rule number one, don't resist it. The more you push, the more they push back. And you're gonna have this. And it's actually quite a nice thing as to why they're doing it. Use it. You can use this to your advantage. With everyone seems to really want to resist everything, and it's like, you know, it's doom and gloom. It's actually not. Back in the day, kids liked parks. Not so much now. And then there again, kids wanted skate parks. It's not really a thing anymore. Shades of grey, hit and miss, but it really isn't. They're quite dangerous as far as I'm concerned, but some people love it, and that's good for them. They like that excitement and everything else. But a lot are now playing games. So, evolve the games to benefit society. So no one could ever say, oh, you know, what are you doing? Playing a game. Oh, that's really good, that is. Oh, well done you. Great. You ain't ever going to get anywhere by playing on a game. Yes, you will. What happens if you had an area in a town or a city or whatnot that was specific for games? But these types of games would be very different. And again, a lot of investment into it, but you can get a lot of stuff out of it later on. So let's take ones with ocean bots. So you could say Breebot, Britbot, Freebot, that's France, and Ameribot. Okay, you got lots of these different types of robotics. So you could play around with nuclear technology, or if that's too risky, then, and we're going to talk about the ocean as well, so that's going to be an interesting thing. They can have built-in pH levels. These can go into rivers, scan around, find blockages. The art is to remove the blocks. Now these types of games, maybe they want them, maybe they don't. But for now, what happens if you build something in a town somewhere that connects to these bots in real time? So the ones that are in the rivers, testing and doing all of this. This is a game that you can play, and it acts like a game, and it's quite fun, but it's creative, as opposed to not so creative, although games are creative. Or you're under the ocean. Or you're on Antarctica. Or you're in a desert. Or you're on the moon. Anyway, so, but first you probably want to get established on the planet first to be able to figure out, you know, trial and error. Know where you're going wrong, know where you're going right. Adjust, adjust, adjust. Thinking about Antarctica is a very interesting thing. Easter Island and stuff like this. So, could you get a remote control ship to bring resources over to Antarctica for these robotics to get on and build? But they won't be robots building, part robotic, and that will be automatic. The robots will work automatically to know what to do. And then when you manually engage it in let's say you have a building somewhere. Some kids might want to go to it, some adults might want to go to it. They might be really good at playing on these games, or really just love having a passion of doing this. But as opposed to building something on a virtual reality, you're building something in real time, using the same construct of a gamepad or whatever else it is. As you move, you're moving. As you go to pick up something and you screw something in. This is building a, I don't know, a farm in Antarctica. What's more, you got to wait for your shipment to go. Again, you're going to need to know how to bring the stuff back, or put it in a place that there are going to be rockets or whatever else sending it off the moon and bringing it home. Well, wouldn't it be great to get that sort of data done now? If you're building it now with an ocean, you just got to take it out of the ocean and put wheels on it, and then you've got something that can traverse over, let's say, not so many liquids. If you've got it on Triton or whatever, Titan, again, it's got methane, colder, brittler, you know, so you've got to deal with that stuff. And if you're building nuclear devices in this sort of process, and you can refine it so that it acts like a... Basically, what you want is the robots to never get tired. They want to have a constant supply of power day or night. You can open these places 24/7, and it can be for free. Why can it be for free? Well, if you want to give some time, sign into your little account, take the robot that's in automatic mode, override it in manual mode, then you are operating the robot, making it build something in real time, a farm or whatever else. The ship automatically needs to take supplies there. That's going to be something. You don't want to be having sailors go there, but you could probably get a remote control version, testing the sea and the waves and all of the problems that may come about. It could sink, maybe, maybe not. The lack of human means a lack of risk. A lack of risk means, anything that grows, are you going to be able to get it to come back? That's the thing. The ship will go there and you don't need to man it. Maybe some people would love to do that as a sort of job, whatever else. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. When you go there, there are many different ways to do this, to be fair, and you're going to need a lot of things. You're going to need a decent amount of way of being able to get the data back in real time, and you're also going to need to send a signal to it. So maybe this will be a bit of a challenge in the beginning, but after a while I think, you know, this will get very quick. Once the robot has got a certain amount of resources to work with, well, I think this can be seen. It can get on with doing it. Once something is built, you can then use what is built. What for? Growing stuff. The reason why I pick Antarctica for growing certain types of food and different stuff like that is because any water that is no longer used inside the structure, and it's got to be lifted off of the ice so that it doesn't create any heat. You don't want any heat leaks. Any water that is used can then be put back down on Antarctica, and it will freeze instantly and become a part of it. So anything that you use can be given back. That's interesting. Or you take something and bring it to it, or you take it from the ocean water and, you know, heat it up in a way under, you know, the bots. If they're not going to be doing anything for a little while, they can go in active mode, and off of their energy can they create some heat, or off of their heat device can they then start heating water to steam it up inside a container that's insulated so it doesn't affect the environment, and then this begins to sweat the salt water and convert it into fresh water while holding the crystals, and then we ship back the crystals. Who knows? Start putting those on the road instead. I mean, it's a little bit more natural, but it's still got its risks. If you're in the ocean, you could make some buoys, yeah? And you might be able to get down to a certain depth, but what happens, and this will be a solar panel on here, if it's going to be solar powered. If the bot gets so far and it's containing power and it runs out of power, it can just inflate something and then begin to float back up to the surface. If it has a solar panel on it, this is if you're not using nuclear energy, although you could, then it's going to charge up, have enough energy left in it to anchor to the buoy, and then become a floating buoy that stays within proximity of the main buoy, whether this latches onto it and goes out and scouts for it. As the object is travelling back up to the surface, and it's made it over here somewhere, as it's travelling up, is there any way, which I think there is, it doesn't matter which way in water you go, you can still control the steering. If it's got a battery in it that's capable of being 100%, you don't want it to go down to 0, you want it to hold at 30%, but the leftover should be at 100%, and once that's gone, it's gone. Lights, anything else. As this begins to float back up and it's quite a way away, you want to be able to steer it so that it can go in this direction to get as close to the buoy as possible, and then anchor onto the buoy around it. Especially if it's solar powered, and then it can begin charging up. complete in solar panel. If these things are very small, and then what can this do? This can search around, this can have a look. What happens if you take 2 down? One is in sleep mode, another one is in active to bring you down to this depth, and after all this will be quite deep. While this one travels back up, it's going to float, this one could send another one down to the same location, or even further, but have enough power inside it that this one can then come up to this one and not all the way to the top and charge from this one, while sending the data to the buoy, which is then sending its data to another buoy, which then sends its data all the way to buoy from a buoy from a buoy, and then you get it on land. And then you've got real-time data coming in. You know what's down there, what you're seeing, blah de blah, this, that and the other. It's going to be very dark, so it's going to need incredible lights. So as it's going down, perhaps no lights are needed. And again, if it's not manned, how much more can you do? And what happens if you put loads of triangulars around it? Triangles pointing upwards, so that the base of the triangle covers it. It looks like one massive spike of triangles all the way around it. Does this allow it to take a lot more pressure? I always thought triangulated objects were. I'm not really sure whether this is, but maybe more spheroid, but around that have a lot of... Because we've got to be able to deal with pressure. Why do we need to be able to deal with pressure? Because most planets contain more pressure and some contain a lot less pressure. Can it get close to a hydrothermal vent? If it can it cope with that heat? How much heat can it cope with? How deep can it go without crushing? High heat and high pressure. Very good. Before you know it, you'll be driving into the sun, if you call it driving or flying. If each one comes down, once this one is charged, this one, it's got enough energy to get back up, anchor on, and this one can be charging. At the meantime, you're sending down another one. Can you get it to go down even further? Can it pull another one down to that level, which then ascends further to be able to keep this charged up? If it was nuclear powered, it would be all the time, every time. Could you imagine operating that around while looking around at different life forms and just pushing the limits of what you can do while getting real-time data, and you're operating this, making discoveries as you play a game? And again, I think this would be pretty good for a company like, I don't know, Google or whoever else. New companies that want to start up. I mean, it's not going to generate any money, perhaps this one, but it's going to give you a lot of data. And what's more, it's going to get you space ready. I think that's valuable insight, I think. Can it be fitted with some equipment to start making discoveries of what's beneath that sand layer? Start penetrating deep down beneath the sand layer at very, very, very big depths. Sure, you can have a load of people in one of those submarines, and if it all goes wrong, that's not very good. But at the same time, that's one. How expensive is it to make just one of those? What happens if you were to be able to make one as just as big, but loads of mini ones? How many would that fit in there? And then you haven't got to have all that room for oxygen canisters and this, that and the other, and breathing and lime and... Yeah, it must be fun to be able to go down there, but what happens if someone that is operating this from a screen that sends a signal to this that then brings it up on a display somewhere, a bit like an old arcade, I suppose, where you're able to control this thing while looking at a screen? If someone's going to sit there and play loads of hours on a game and they feel a little bit guilty, then, you know, you've tried the rest, now come and try the best. Make some discoveries as you go. And then this finds something that's a little bit, what on earth is that? You can then send the big one to it to go and explore, and add in little Bebos to the area, so this big one that is manned or humaned, weird, can go there and then begin to start investigating a little bit more, get an eyes-on approach. Each time there's something good, it will put in a flag, which then sends a signal so that when you get close to it, you can pick up on this signal and find it a little bit more better, as opposed to go down blind and be like, So a lot of data comes from that. If you're on Antarctica and you're building a craft, it gets you ready for the moon, it gets you ready for any moon. Shit, there's going to be a bit more of a time dilation on that. But if you know what's in the supply closet, and you know what you've got the robot to build, this can already be building it using computer power to build the construct in real time and show you how it is in a sort of computerized version, and then when you leave the game, those commands are going to go off to the robot, but you're going to see it like it's real time. The only way to really get around that is, and then this helps computers predict. So do you get what I mean? So the person's going to go to the computer and start building some stuff with it, and they're going to see it be built in real time, but they're not building it in real time. What they're actually doing is building it in real time, as real as it can look, as lifelike as it can look, and then when they go off and leave and go to bed, it's going to send those coordinates to wherever that robot is, and then the robot is going to get on and do that. It's going to know from that instruction manual, which has been sent from here, and this is going to save it at that level. Then once the robot has built it, or part of it, it's then going to send those signals back. Then the computer is going to capture that information and then show the user it the next time they sign in, or the next time someone else signs in, or the next time. And then bit by bit you can build upon this. And then the computer is getting more and more better at its predictions. The robot is getting more and more better at understanding commands, and slowly but surely you're going to then be able to build something in real time. But it's going to appear like it's happening now, but it's not. It's going to send a signal, and it's going to get on with that. So it's part game, part reality. So if it's going to take, I don't know, depending if you're on Jupiter, for argument's sake, let's say it takes around 5 hours, for argument's sake. It's going to take 5 hours for that signal to send. In the meantime, you're going to go and get on with life, perhaps. You're going to spend a few hours on that and then go and get on with life for 5 hours, or maybe 10 hours, and then go to bed, wake up the next day, something's going to happen in your life and whatnot, and then you get another bit of time. By that time, hopefully the signal's already come back 10 hours later. You get an email or whatnot. Oh yeah, I'm going to look forward to going and seeing that. Then when you go there, it's then showing you in real time what the robot has actually done versus what the computer predicted versus what the robot achieved. Behind the scenes, engineers can be having a look at that and thinking, cool, actually did it bang on, that was pretty good. Okay, let's go again. Alright, yeah, I think we've nailed this process. Or no, we need to adjust a few bits on here. And I think bit by bit you get to learn that, slowly but surely. Doing this one with the boys, where it's sending power as being... It'll allow you to investigate caves on the moon using this sort of process. You can also use wireless technology as well. I mean, crank it up, you might as well. If there's no humans there, you can get away with cranking that up without causing too much disruption. It will do here on Earth. It'd be like being underneath high power cables, but still. Or you can get a piling device to sort of drill down and make a nice chambered hole down there and send in some power cables into the already power cable going this way, and now you've got some more that are connected to solar panels on the surface. So that it just keeps the current at maximum smackery, if you like. So if you imagine a cave, I don't know if I've got enough paper, I'll go into this one in a bit more detail on another one. So if you've got a cave, yeah, this is your cave. It would go down a lot deeper in places and everything else, but if you were able to anchor down and put in a very small hole, very small indeed, along the way, you've got the entrance, let's say over here, you've got a group of solar panels out here. This is sending some power down to here, and then if you've got another group of solar panels here that connect to a cable that then go to another one that's just drilled down, depending on how deep the cave is, depending on if it's possible, if you've got anchor points, but still, it keeps the power from one to the other, and then anywhere along that route you've got maximum amount of power. Problem is, if you send multiple cables down, you run out of power. It starts to deplete a little bit. But if you've got nuclear technology, you can base it up on solar panels to get you to a certain point, and then you can Christmas tree. Think of Christmas lights, where you've got bulb on top of bulb on top of bulb on top of bulb on top of bulb. If you do the same but with battery, and then you've got a power source, this should be enough to push it through. It'll take a little bit longer to... what you want is all joined together, so that they all deplete together and then charge back up together. but you're going to be utilizing a lot of cycles on that process. You can send wireless energy through if it's capable to do so. You can also have one connected to here on a panel, and then have load of scouters that go, and then they come back and charge. They'll only ever be able to go halfway, but if you had two devices on top of each other, so if you had two, let's say, little cars, rovers maybe, mini rovers, and then you connected another one on top, who knows, or a battery pack, and it drops it off, it can always come back to the battery pack, and then you can go again from the one on above. So it sort of piggybacks. So halfway now becomes more than halfway, as long as it's got enough energy. This one's sitting at half energy. If it does connect to a power supply that's been chained from here, that will travel, but it will be incredibly weak. The more solar panels you've got versus the small object being charged, that will trickle through, although be it very slowly. But while it's sitting there and the other one is further going off, the one that's been on top further goes off, there could be a chance that this one charges up. This one goes halfway, comes back, this one's now fully charged, and then this one sits in the same dock and charges up and then continues off. I mean, there are many ways to achieve this in caves. Caves are a pain in the ass, especially when it comes to limited energy, unless you build nuclear power stations and different things like that. However, you know, you're going to need to build them very small, because you don't want to leave a nuclear power plant there if the cave turns out to be a load of shit. There's nothing in it. Alright, well, there's some of this stuff will mark it. Even if these are in here and they do find something, just put a flag on it that gives a signal. I mean, it should stay shut down until you need it, and the closer it gets, it sends a signal to the other, this and this. I don't know, could tell you that there's something of interest in there, or you put an NFC chip there, so that when it drives past, it scans these chips. Then in this chip, it states that it's this. You can code that along the way. Those tell you to come back later. And let's say this cave is a load of shite. You want to be able to collect your nuclear device and bring it out. And if it turns out that the moon is practically, there's nothing left there to get, then you want to be able to take that nuclear device and go and deploy it on another area. You don't want to lose it, you want to keep it. So making it so these things are highly mobile, they can be moved. I mean, to think about it, nuclear energy will probably be the best thing ever if you can utilize these type rovers. But if you build the rovers in such a way, so you got a rover here, let's say, and then you've got another one over here, and they connect on a subframe, let's say, and then you've got some more that are in series behind it, and it's connected to here. They don't stay connected, they can come off of one another. You've got multiple rovers that go in, you know, and then we don't have to utilize all of them, because you could burn out the process. You don't want to do that. So rovers have a limit, I think, to the amount of movement that they can actually do in a lifetime, if not built correctly, which you would build it state of the art. But if you use these back wheels for maneuvering the whole object, you don't need to use these front ones. These ones just free wheel. And then if it has the front wheels for exploration, and these wheels stay in reserve, or the motor, so it doesn't burn out, stay in reserve, when they're all connected together like this, could you not put on top of it a payload of a nuclear energy? So that it can then, once it's got down into a cave and it's not possible to fit it in any further, can it then drop the nuclear power plant, let's say, however that may be, it can drop it off here, and then these rovers can become independent and then go off scouting down different areas, and then they can come back to the power station, charge up. The more you are managing to get on here, the more you've got scouting about. But they all link together, and then the back motor wheels, let's say, it won't go very fast, but it's made for moving, or you can have them all power out, it doesn't really matter. And it can move the power station on top of it in series. Drop it off, and then those can go off scouting and then pick it up and move further down. Then you've got light, you've got energy that you can keep recharging from. If it's possible, that's if it's possible. Yeah, I think that would work pretty well. The moon would be a very interesting thing. That's one version of it, and then if you had two of these, one on land, one for cave exploring. Then if you've got two, then three, then four, then five, then six, I mean, you've got a hell of an amount of fleet there. The ones on the surface can then be building stuff, putting things together, maybe making a farm, maybe making some food, who knows. If they're not going to be exploring and they're charging up, but while they're charging up, you want two modes. One mode is that runs on and relies on battery, and another mode that runs on cable. If they're going to be in close proximity to the power plant, then it makes sense to have a cable that connects to it, the robot, and it allows it to go 50 meters away. So you're not using cycles of battery, and it's getting its power from the cable. So if 50 meters is the maximum amount for efficiency, then that's what it gets. 50 meter cable. Now, it can take off this cable once the battery's charged, and depending on how long it's got, it can scout away from the cable and go further. Then it can go back to the cable, and the cable supplies the power to all the mechanisms in order to make it operate. So if you're building something, you don't want to be using the battery power, because if you use the battery power, you're limited to the amount of cycles you've got, which could knacker the battery, and you don't want to do that, because it's precious resource on the moon, perhaps. Let's say that you haven't found any yet. So you want to make it so it's cable. If you've got another robot that you don't really need it, then can you put two 50-meter cables, clop them together? The robot does it itself. Relies on the battery to do so, and then can it go further? If the battery ever breaks, you've always got one that it's no longer broken completely, as long as it doesn't break over here. But even if it did break over here, another robot could go and get it and bring it back, connect it to the cable, and then that one stays cable operating. Because if you rely on just batteries and it charges up like a mobile phone, and anything goes wrong with that battery, that's it, dead. Problem is with mobile phones, if battery goes, it would be nice in hindsight if you could remove the battery, plug it in, and it still stays operating, but so be it, you're connected to the charger all the time. That's the type of process you want on these. And then that's a sort of lifeline that you've got, and it stays connected to this. Then if this is a power station, all the bots pick it up together, all of them connected to the cable, and then they can maybe march different places and then put down the power. So if one reaches here at halfway, 50% of its battery is gone from the cable, and it finds something useful, it puts in an NFC chip, a load of data of what it's found, so it can find it. Then it goes back to the cable, collects itself to the cable, walks back to the power station. All the other bots come back. If they've found something, they'll put in a flag, and then all the bots pick up the power station, and then they decide we're going to go over here. Then they can bring the power station over here, and then they can work on whatever that may be there, and they've got the opportunity to then go even further, so that they don't have to stay in the same area. You could do the same with solar panels as well, but with solar panels, yeah, it could still work. We're going to be limited to so many days, so it's going to be like shift work. So many days on, so many days off. So many days on, so many days off. So you might spend a few days with all the bots connected to the solar panels, and then off they walk. Who knows? Or that maybe they have wheels and they ride off into the frickin' moon, let's say, and find a crater. Getting down, it's going to be easy. Getting up won't be so easy. So they will have to find anchor points before they go into craters, to start putting anchor points in, and then they're going to connect some sort of rope to it or whatever it may be, so that they can then climb their way back out afterwards and bring the power away, depending on how big it is and how deep it is. If they can't reach, if the crater is massive and too big, then they might as well take this down with them, even if you get them to make steps as they go, so that they can also get back out again. It might take a little bit of time, but what you need to be able to do in these situations is be thrifty as anything. If you get down it, and then you stay down it, and it actually turns out to be not a lot of stuff there, then that's a waste. But if you go down with the intention to get out, then you can find anchor point, abseil, and then they can pull themselves back up, along with the power plant as well. There's always this. If they make steps, well, that's pretty good. That's at least traversing sideways down these is the best way. Zigzagging. It takes a little bit more time. If it's nuclear powered, there's no problem. If it's done by solar panels, it's got to be a pain in the ass, because it's going to take a long time to do it. But like I say, I've got to get some more paper and I'll go a little bit more into detail, because there's a lot of stuff to think about if you were to ever do it. Hey, I'm sure that people that get together off of a small little bit of information like this, if everybody is looking at it, there could be some things that I've overlooked, and there might be some things that you overlook, and therefore, when everybody's in that, it comes together to create something that is almost completely fail-safe, and then it makes it a great success. So I think the more minds that go into it, I think the better. But if you can cover all of your bases, nuclear energy, who knows? If it's even possible to make a nuclear power station that's all enclosed, I mean, that's a challenge, I think, but I think it can be done. And then whether it works or not there is another question entirely. If it's all enclosed and it's insulated, it doesn't get hot and it doesn't get cold, the only temperature it makes is the temperature inside it. None of that leaks out, and it works in a self-fulfilling prophecy type generating power, let's say. That would be the best way to do it. And then if it decays and it's terribly bad, then there's going to have to be a place where you're going to have to discharge that. But being able to find it, if you can find the same stuff there. I mean, if you go into something and you're like, oh my god, we got some of this here, great. Then that means we can swap this shit out if it gets bad, put it over there, mark it as like no man's land, and then build some anew. If you've got two of these, if you do find some, I don't know if it's called uranium, no, it's not sure, I'm not sure, where they go and collect it from the ground, I forget what it's called, it's because I'm in a different area. What's it called? Is it uranium mine?
Uranium is mine, yeah.
Then you would have one bot that is able to fix the other bot. So let's say if it's decayed too much and it's no longer working as well as it should, or it needs some more, if they can mine it, and you've got two, the others can probably won't want to bring them back to Earth afterwards, won't they be radioactive? But then they're going to need to have some sort of special shields over them, aren't they? To stop it interfering with the electronics. But if I'm right, in the last Fukushima, is it called that?
Yeah.
There was a bot that went in, wasn't there? And also in Chernobyl as well.
Yeah.
It didn't last very long. But I'm sure technology's come a long way from there. From a distance. So that might be a problem, but even still, isn't it about the intensity of it though?
Yeah.
So if it's inside this, do you think it's going to be less intense than what? You're not going to be taking fucking Chernobyl power station with you, are you? That's the difference. So is it the fact that it's so intense that it's frying the circuits on the, I don't even know if that's the correct word, but still, whatever. I'm not going to get all scientific with it, I haven't got time for it, but yeah, is it because it was so big that that's what fried the, let's say, the robot that was going in to explore? If this one is smaller, but still gets the job done, are the bots then able to, with that same amount of protection that was at Chernobyl, can they then switch it out or add more if they need to gain more power? That's the question. And then are they more likely to be successful in doing that? Because making repairs would be great. And if it's not too big, yeah, I don't know. It all starts off with like these little games that start off first. And you'd be like, well, why the hell do we want to do that for? Well, one, it's a lot of data, and imagine if you found something, I don't know, gonna use the term, what if you found a gold mine? You wouldn't be able to find, I mean, if you've got one big craft searching the ocean, or having a look around, that's not a lot. But if you've got multiple, and multiple players want to do it, there's a chance that you're going to get more results quicker. Then if you're on Easter Island or something like that, and you've got food coming back, I mean, it prepares you for Mooncraft, you know, if you're on Icecraft. And you can also look around there as well, can't you, to see what's what. Make any discoveries, ancient forests, ancient civilizations that once were there. Recovering stuff from a shipwreck, this is also possible in these. Going around looking for stuff in the... How deep can you get? That's the question. What can you recover? Maybe nothing's worth salvaging, but maybe there is some stuff that is worth salvaging. I mean, that can make you pretty rich in knowledge, can't it? Ooh, these fucking pirates! Look what they were getting there, little bastards! Yeah, whatever else it may be. Yeah, then you're out traversing the solar system, and then these bots and different things like that running on these concepts can start to build things to make the way for humans, or pave the way for humans. Who knows? And then if they start discovering treasure as well, then that's also just as good. Then it means that your species can expand into it. Well, like I say, I'm going to get some more paper. I don't have any anymore. I've run out. And I get some more paper, and then I'm going to dive into this really deep. Because it's not just these couple of concepts that there are many more. And there are many different ways to achieve power. I think on a few videos back, quite a few, I think it was summer, I was talking about the solar panel version. That one I like, so I didn't want to go too deep into it on this one. There's also vehicles that, rather than finding the cave, it would probably be best to excavate on top, making your own crater. That could work. That could work really well. Solar vehicles that do that. Push it out the way, and then you leave the little scouters. Those excavators go on to do something else elsewhere, and while they're making another crater somewhere else, these ones are having a good old look. Yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, no. Oh, this stuff's good, wonderful, we're finished. Oh, okay then. Then by that time, the machines, the excavators, have excavated another crater for the bots to go to. While they're looking at that, they're already getting on with another, and another, and another, and another. That's a very good process, I think. And I often wonder about magnetism. Do you ever think, if you ever pushed let's say you've got loads of wheels, yeah? And you've got one type of north-facing magnet, and loads of those underneath a load of carriages on a track, railway track for example. And then on the sleepers, you've got the south-facing, only south. And you've only got a south one on the trolley as well. Do you think if you pushed that and gave it that first initial push, that it would keep repelling and it would keep on moving? I think I was playing around with this in Griffin. Like if you made the whole frickin' carriage out of southern facing magnetism, and then you had southern facing ones that were angled at the sleepers, wouldn't that want to push it out the way? And all it would need is a robot just to push it, and off it goes, to send it from one side to another. Shit me, even if you put dynamos on the wheels, I think that may work, it may not. I think there will be a bit of resistance there. Could that generate some energy? Nuclear train is good as well, that puts the energy into the track. And then how strong is that propelling? Depending on how many magnets you got. I was just wondering if you could get down a crater using the process and then back up it. Interesting. Anyway, I'm going to leave that one there. So yeah, as I say, I'll get some more paper and I'll dive deeper into this, but got a few things developing in the mind, so yeah, I will dig into this a bit more. I like to keep coming back to this one because it fascinates me quite a bit, especially with computers and different stuff like that. And then yeah, it wouldn't be frowned upon to have people playing computer games in that way. And then can it better the process of computer games? And then the data that comes in, can it feed back to hologrammed computers for kids to understand more stuff about their solar system? That would be an interesting thing. Very interesting. Yep, and collecting the debris from around the... You see, Saturn trains you that if you can collect the debris around Saturn, it's a training ground, really. There are many ways to collect these debris. Some more easier and some more challenging than others, but there is many ways to do it. Because if you were to... Let's say you found a moon that you didn't really care about too much around another planet, a celestial body, let's say, and you were to throw something at it and it was to obliterate it apart. I mean, this is usually the best way to find out, well, it gets you past all the caves and stuff and you have loads of little mini objects anyway. You want to be able to ball some of these up and collect them and then stop them from moving too fast, which is interesting. And then once you've slowed them all down and you've kept them all together, then you can really examine what you've got. And you can bring these payloads back, which becomes very interesting because then you can land them down very gently onto the Earth. Very gently. Actually, if you do it if you fuck it up, it creates a comet, right? So, but then you can practice on the nearby. So if there's 86 moons, you manage to break up one of them, which then gives you 85 moons left, and one of the moons you try and land this debris on, very gently. But you'd want one with an atmosphere that closely resembles Earth, and then you can learn a way to try and, bit by bit, first you start with the moon. Well, we kind of did it there, that kind of worked. Alright, we got the process of getting it to a certain area. You've got the magnetic field to contend with here as well, so it can't come in too fast. Or maybe you want to melt it, I don't know. Skim it through, take it to the sun. But yes, when you then got familiar with it, you want to go to a little bit more of a bigger body, but not Earth. And then you want to try and land these down. As you do so, you begin to learn processes that work in the atmosphere, which is closely resembling Earth, let's say. Bit by bit that you learn this, you're then able to land stuff on the Earth very gently, almost bring it down like a feather. And then that's some real stuff right there. But you might want to shrink wrap it, who knows, before you bring it down, because it might contaminate Earth or whatever else. But you can test this along the way. These things need to be looked at. Sometimes it can be quite ridiculous to bring a load of stuff straight down from another planet onto your planet without testing it. But along the way, you'll learn that. Analyze it, test it, experiment with it. Mimic Earth's atmosphere and water and pressures and different things like that. See if anything grows, see if anything fundamental starts to develop on it. You only need a few small bits of it anyway. And then once you've done that, you can then figure out, it seems alright. Gases that it's releasing, there are none. It seems to be working pretty well. Sure, it's going to break down. Sure, it's going to have an overall reaction eventually. If it's iron, it's going to definitely have a reaction to that. It's going to rust. So again, probably don't want to be overdosing the Earth in iron if you can help it, especially if it starts rusting. That can be detrimental. Not too much. Some things, if you bring too much of something down and it starts to react with the gases that you've already got, that's never a good thing. But if you had a workshop on the moon that was built by the robots eventually, I mean, you could bring it to the moon safely enough out of that environment and shape it and make it to what you need it into. And then you can really have laboratories, the same processes that work on the Earth to extract things and purify stuff. Well, you can do that there, on the moon, and send it close to the sun and purify it, get it nice and hot, burn off the bits you don't need. After all, that's what you can do with the sun. Nuclear furnace. Magnifying glasses work really well. This is technically like a laser. You don't have one lens that you do, you have lots of lenses, because when you angle the lens, it creates a smaller spot. So you might have a lens that's this big, but you'll only get a sort of hot spot that's much this size. But if you have lots of them angled, you can make these hot spots even bigger, depending on how many you've got. And then when you no longer need it to be as potent, They just position in an angle that doesn't allow the hotspot. Each one of these magnifying glasses that you have on, the bigger it is, the smaller it is, but the bigger that you can build this type laser that allows these to rotate. So think about it as being a lens that you can connect it to a part like here, and it's like the dish. You can rotate it away, and then therefore it's no longer this side of it, the edge. We often look at it as coins. Let me get something, because I think I'm getting a bit confusing with this. Let's say if this is the lens, and it's got a part on the top and the bottom, and it's connected to an overall object. When it's like this and it's slightly angled, it creates that very small hotspot that's on here when it's at that angle. If it turns to the side and you have something that protects it so the light can't travel through it, anyway, trying to do it sideways is also interesting. But if this bit is blackened, then it's no longer going to cause the scorch surface that you need. The more of these that you have that can rotate, so that you can adjust the beam and adjust the intensity of the heat, because the bigger the hot spot, the less hot it is, but it's still giving off some heat. The more smaller it is, the more intense it becomes. And if you have loads of these connected and then aimed at a certain angle, these will do the job. You can heat lots of things with this. The more you have, the more hot spots. What happens if you go through one hot spot, magnify that, and then hit into another bunch of magnifying glasses independent that are also angled? Do you increase it, going from one series of magnifying glasses to another, to another, to another, to another? Do you increase the heat? It's a very interesting thing. Closer to the star, without getting too close so that it starts cooking you? Who knows? What can you do with that? After all, glass is abundant. So, and then can you scorch planets? Eventually you can begin to scorch the planets, and if they contain sand on it, you can then start to make molten glass. Especially, it would be inverted into a crater, a crater, and you were to map it using the hotspot that goes around the crater. I mean, how you would turn that up the other way and make a dome? Well, you could use the old Egyptian way, dig it out, and then it begins to rotate, and then you can make some embankments either side, and then bring down the embankments, and then you can rotate the object, and then you have a dome. Can you make some sides with that? Why, yes you can. Some semicircles, nice to go around the outside, and then can you fuse these pieces of glass together? Who knows? Leave a nice hole in it, and then you want another chamber that sits over the top of this with a balloon in it, and a valve, depends where you are, but you want that valve to collect that gas into another balloon, Again, I will show you on another video about this one. It's so that you can inflate a balloon in an object without losing the gas inside the object, and then you don't need any compression chamber or anything else like that, and it takes the pressure off of anything that's glass, it's made of glass. You want lots of these because they become as fail-safes, to eventually it looks like a cow's udder. Really weird, but again, it's a balloon inside a container inside a balloon with a valve inside another container inside another container, and then you know that when the dome starts increasing in pressure, it then triggers off the valves. When these valves trigger off, it then starts taking the pressure off of the structure. So if the structure can cope with this much PSI, the valve kicks in just before you even reach that window, and then it allows it to inflate into something so you don't vent your gases. Then when the pressure inside starts to subside, whether you're going to shade it, whether you're going to allow more heat, whatever else, then these gases will begin to drop back down. So it's a two-way valve system. One is just lets the air inflate into the balloon, and the other one is done via, you control it. When it starts to drop down inside the dome, you can then begin to release the balloon backwards into the gases from the balloon will then over pressurize. You don't want to drop too far in the glass dome, and then the balloon starts to deflate back into the chamber. You don't have to do it this way. You can just leave a gap and it will inflate and contract, inflate and contract. It's like a balloon, but it would have to be a lot better. There again, when testing this process, I managed to put a balloon inside a balloon inside a balloon inside a balloon, just in case one popped. inside that, it's more than likely the next layer, the onion skin, will grab that so you don't lose your gases. Because if that balloon comes off and it's exposed, which this one wasn't, it was inside a bottle, but there again, when trying to inflate it in the bottle, I had to remove the air from the bottle. So yeah, that is more replaceable to replace the air on an external balloon if it popped, as opposed to the one that's internal, because if the one that was internal burst, it would just vent all of your gases out of your structure very quickly. Brings it all out, and then everything inside is dead. In order to stop that, you fail safe it. And then the final balloon, if it popped, it wouldn't matter, because you would only lose that volume and no more. If you didn't have that safety feature, forget it. All of the gases seem to want to come out too quickly, and then your structure fails, and anything that's in there dies. Don't make the mistake if you can prevent the mistake from happening in the first place. It'll be one of those situations where it was like, of course, it was hindsight. One of those things we just couldn't overlook. We just overlooked it, we couldn't see it. You got to get into hindsight now and start planning ahead. Not because you want to think of worst case scenario, but we know there's going to be pressure on this. Anything to do with glass, plastic, balloon, anything, there's going to be pressure build up. If it gets hot, it's going to inflate. If it gets cold, it's going to deflate. You don't want it to go too far below, so you have another balloon that is inflated, always, and another one that is deflated. And if it gets too cold inside that dome, then the pressure is going to start dipping down. Then the other balloon activates and puts the pressure in to keep it at right ratio. If it starts getting hot, it can put it back into that balloon, yes, and it can also put it into another one that can take the pressure, and then you ain't ever got to worry about it shattering or getting a crack in it. I mean, because that's going to be a pain in the ass. The only time you will is if you get micrometeorites, but then you can do something about micrometeorites as well, secondary on top of this glass structure. But like I say, I'm going to get some paper and I'll go into this in more details. There's lots of processes to counteract that, and then you don't need to reinforce the glass. It's a hard thing to reinforce a load of glass and structures, and you need loads of metal and it needs to be all intricate. It doesn't have to be, especially if you're only growing plants in it. It doesn't really need to be. It'll be quite a simple process, to be honest. Yeah, because if you're going to reinforce everything, even after all of that, that means that you're running a risk, because you're allowing the pressure to build up, but you're trying to stop the pressure from escaping by reinforcing a structure. After a while, I think that will over-pressurize, and it will, when it goes, the gases come out really fast. They try and righten themselves really quickly, so it's not a slow process, depends on how it breaks. And most structures have weak points, so this way eliminates the need to even do that, and you jump ahead in this aspect. And even then, you could build a reinforced structure over this structure just in case, as a fail-safe. I mean, it's always good to have onion layers. Yeah, in this process it's always good. Then you could be like, well, what about micrometeorites? You can deal with those really easily, actually. They're actually not that bad. It just depends on what they hit when they go through. If they hit your structure, then you can heal your structure very quickly. There's another process to use. I'll dive into this, but it all depends on what it hits. If it hits a person, you're going to need an RV dentist type thing, or a hospital, either or. If there was a person there, that's what you would need. That's when it becomes a pain in the ass. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there for now. I've run out of paper. I'll get some more, and then I'll come back to this. But yeah, Happy New Year.